Recently, we've got some exciting news. Identity V is getting another crossover. This time, it's with the pixelated horror game Ib. The crossover is set to release on April 17th. The crossover will feature 3 main characters from the game. Ib, a little girl trapped in a mysterious art gallery. Gary, a kind-hearted young man. And Mary, a blonde girl with secrets of her own. For those familiar with Ib, this collaboration makes a lot of sense. But not everyone in the IDV community has played the game or even heard of it. That's why in today's video, I'll be breaking down everything we know so far about the Identity V and Ib crossover. Most of this information comes from IDV's official accounts, with some extra details from IDV Clue on Twitter and fan discussions. Some details might have not been clear yet, even after I did some digging myself. For that, I apologize. And I would recommend you to also see the news for yourself. This is your broadcaster, Silmina, signing in. Ib is a unique indie horror adventure game made with the RPG Maker engine, which places it in the category of RPG Maker horror games. Over the years, it has gained a loyal fan base for its eerie atmosphere and intriguing story. The game follows a young girl named Ib, who visits an art gallery with her parents, only to find herself trapped in a strange, unsettling version of the gallery. Originally released in February 2012, Ib has a retro, pixelated look, even by the standards of that time. Unlike traditional horror games that rely on combat, Ib focuses on exploration and puzzle solving. Players must carefully examine their surroundings, uncover hidden secrets, and avoid mysterious dangers lurking in the gallery. Instead of a typical health bar, Ib's survival is tied to a delicate red rose, adding an extra layer of tension to the gameplay. Throughout her journey, Ib meets 2 other key characters, Gary and Mary. Their interactions, along with the player's choices, play a major role in determining the game's multiple endings. The early to mid-2010s are often seen as the golden age of RPG Maker horror games, with tons of indie horror titles being released online. This era stood out because most of these games were free to download and could run on low-end PCs. Ib was one of the first games to kickstart this trend, and unlike many others, it has stayed popular for over a decade. With its lasting appeal, it's no surprise that Identity V decided to collaborate with this cult classic. What makes Ib special compared to other RPG Maker horror games is how it blends atmosphere, storytelling, and character choices. While many horror games rely on jump scares or gore, Ib takes a more psychological approach. The tension builds through eerie environments, unsettling sound effects, and the slow reveal of the gallery's dark secrets. Instead of cheap scares, the game draws players in with an immersive and emotional experience that makes them care about Ib's journey. A huge part of Ib's success comes from its well-written characters, especially Gary and Mary. The choices players make affect their fates and lead to different endings, adding emotional depth that not all RPG Maker horror games achieve. And even though one of them turns out to be an antagonist, all 3 characters remain fan favorites. With its strong character interactions, clever puzzles, haunting art style, and gripping story, Ib has cemented itself as a classic in indie horror. The game's continued popularity, thanks to remasters and its Steam release, has kept it relevant for new generations of players. While other RPG Maker games may have better graphics, storylines, or gameplay mechanics, Ib's impact and recognition make it a perfect choice for an Identity V crossover. On top of that, Ib fits well into Identity V's gameplay, since its characters can be easily adapted into the game's survivor and hunter mechanics. fans had been speculating about which IDV characters they'll represent, and it was interesting to see how they're brought into the game's world. In the Ib crossover with Identity V, the three main characters, Ib, Gary, and Mary, are represented by different Identity V characters. First, we have Ib. According to the announcements, the journalist will be taking her role. But honestly, I don't really see the journalist as a good fit. Ib is a child, so it would have made more sense for her to be represented by the little girl instead. If I had to guess, maybe they chose journalist because both she and Ib have to investigate their surroundings to progress in their stories. Next is Gary. He's a tall, thin guy with messy hair, which is why Jack was picked for his role. It makes sense, especially since Jack was also chosen to represent Isaac Foster in a previous crossover. I don't think any other character would fit Gary better, but I do feel like Jack keeps getting more crossover skins than other hunters, which seems a bit unfair. Lastly, there's Mary. According to the news, she'll be represented by Martha B. Hamphil, the coordinator. That's a bit surprising since Mary is also a little girl. Personally, I would have expected antiquarian or toy merchant to fit better with antiquarian because of the similar appearance, and toy merchant because of the lore. But at the end of the day, it's up to NetEase, so we'll just have to roll with it and enjoy what they give us. The Ib and Identity V crossover is set to take place on April 17th, which is just around the corner. Right now, there's no official info on how we'll be able to get the skins, but during the live stream, they did confirm that all three skins will be A tier. The good news? Players will get to pick one of the three skins for free. It's likely that the skins will be tied to some kind of crossover event where the final reward will be the free skin of our choice. However, since Ib is pretty popular among gamers, I have a feeling that the rest of the skins will be purchasable with echoes rather than fragments. Of course, that's just my guess. As for other free rewards, aside from the one free skin, we'll probably get some stickers, portraits, pets, or maybe even some emotes. Now that Identity V has decided to collaborate with Ib, both games stand to benefit from this crossover. First, for Identity V, this event will likely attract Ib fans who are eager to get their hands on the skins. Whether they're available through echoes or fragments, hardcore Ib fans will probably spend a fortune collecting them. It's no surprise. Fans often don't hesitate to invest in the things they love. Additionally, some former Identity V players who left the game might return just because of this crossover. In short, this collaboration could be a financial win for NetEase. But beyond just profits, the crossover will also introduce Identity V to people who may have only known Ib before, broadening the game's reach. On the flip side, Ib will also gain more recognition among Identity V players worldwide. While longtime Ib fans won't be surprised, newer players, especially those born in the late 2000s, might not have had the chance to experience the game when it was at its peak. Since Ib was most popular in the early 2010s before fading slightly toward the end of the decade, this crossover could bring fresh attention to the game. Personally, I first played Ib around 2015, so I can definitely see why it's a great choice for an Identity V collaboration. That being said, there are plenty of other RPG Maker horror games that would also be a perfect fit. For example, Ao Oni or Corpse Party could work well, given their horror and suspense elements. Another solid choice would be The Forest of Drizzling Rain which was developed by the same creator as Angels of Death. If Angels of Death could make it into Identity V, it wouldn't be surprising to see the Forest of Drizzling Rain follow someday. That wraps up today's discussion on the Identity V and Ib crossover. If you have any questions or think I missed something, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. This is your broadcaster, Selmina, signing out.